but we did. It didn't take long. And it's because we sounded so different.
When the band first formed, it didn't take long for people to notice something special. Mick Mars often recalls, "We just clicked because we sounded so different." That difference became the heartbeat of Motley Crue, shaping a style that was both raw and controversial, a sound that would define an era. At 74, Mick Mars surprised the world with candid revelations about Vince Neil, his former bandmate, and the tensions that had simmered behind the glam rock facade for decades. The honesty in his words ignited a discussion not just among fans, but within the wider music industry, forcing everyone to reconsider the complex relationship between these two iconic figures. Mick's decision to finally speak out wasn't random. It was the culmination of years of frustration, isolation, and the sense that his contributions had long been underappreciated. And when he did, the industry listened. In recent statements, Mick Mars didn't hold back. He confirmed long-rumored truths, that the band relied heavily on backing tracks during live shows, and that much of Vince Neil's vocal performances had been supported in this way. This wasn't just gossip, it was coming from one of the founding pillars of the band, someone who carried Mötley Crüe on his shoulders for years. Most of Vince's live parts needed backing tracks, Mick explained in an interview. Fans who had suspected it for years finally had their suspicions confirmed. He also revealed that the real reason for leaving the band wasn't illness or age, it was the growing disrespect and feeling of exclusion from a group he had helped build from the ground up. Mick's statements didn't just expose technical details, they exposed a deeper emotional fracture within the band. As expected, Mick's candid revelations sent shockwaves through fan communities. Social media exploded, splitting public opinion. Some fans sided with Mick, praising him for courage and honesty. Others defended Vince, claiming the situation was exaggerated or misrepresented. The band's response varied. Nikki Sixx expressed regret, calling the situation unfortunate. Tommy Lee stayed mostly silent. Vince Neil defended himself by suggesting that Mick's style made it hard for him to perform better. Mick's own response to Vince? "It is what it is." This marked the first time in decades that the cracks in Mötley Crüe's legendary image were displayed so openly. To truly understand the tension, we must revisit the beginning. In 1981, Vince Neil met Tommy Lee and Nikki Sixx. Mick Mars often said Vince was the missing piece, the one capable of turning the fledgling band into a global phenomenon. Just a year later, Mötley Crüe's debut album, Too Fast for Love, made waves in the American rock scene. The early years were marked by explosive energy, razor-sharp guitar riffs, powerful vocals, and relentless drumming. By 1983, Shout at the Devil had sold over 4 million copies in the US, achieving platinum status and cementing the band's reputation as glam rock pioneers. Success only intensified with albums like Theater of Pain, Girls, 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 and Dr. Feelgood. Vince Neil became the face of the band, charismatic, wild, and unapologetically glamorous. But behind the image, tensions were growing. The band's trajectory changed dramatically in 1984 with the car accident that resulted in the death of Nicholas Dingley from Hanoi Rocks. Vince Neil was convicted of manslaughter, sentenced to 15 days in jail, and ordered to pay over $2.6 million in damages. This event shook the band, leaving an indelible mark on their relationships. Mick Mars later reflected that the accident changed everything. The trust, camaraderie, and shared vision that had defined the band's early years began to unravel. Vince Neil's lifestyle, fast cars, parties, and public scandals, only deepened the divide. By the early 1990s, tensions reached a breaking point. Vince Neil's involvement in the band had waned. He skipped rehearsals, showed up late, and focused more on personal pursuits like car racing. A closed-door meeting in 1992 became a pivotal moment. The band concluded Vince lacked the motivation to continue, resulting in his departure. Mick Mars later emphasized that this period exposed the fragility of their creative collaboration. The official story cited musical differences, but insiders knew the truth: trust had been broken. Vince's solo efforts post-departure faced commercial failure, and the media portrayed him as a lonely figure struggling to regain relevance. The mid to late 1990s brought a wave of nostalgia. Industry pressure and fan demand pushed Motley Crue toward a reunion. Vince Neil returned, and albums like Generation Swine marked a commercial attempt to reignite the band's legacy. However, the reunion didn't heal old wounds. Mick Mars revealed that creative control was still contested. Guitar parts were edited or removed, and personal distance remained. Large tours like Carnival of Sins in 2005 and the Stadium Tour in 2022 brought financial success but highlighted the ongoing lack of internal unity. Tommy Lee's intermittent departures and returns added to the instability, while Vince Neil remained a central figure of controversy. The reunion was less about musical passion and more about maintaining the band's commercial viability. From 2010 onward, cracks became more visible. Vince Neil faced repeated criticism for weaker vocals and reliance on backing tracks. Live shows were scrutinized, with footage showing him struggling on stage. Reality TV appearances like Celebrity Wife Swap only exposed more personal struggles, deepening the perception of instability. Meanwhile, Mick Mars battled ankylosing spondylitis, enduring pain silently while staying committed to tours until 2022. Despite physical limitations, he continued to uphold his role, showcasing remarkable dedication amidst declining creative harmony. In April 2023, Mick Mars filed a lawsuit against the remaining members of Mötley Crüe, accusing them of exclusion from creative processes, financial manipulation, and reliance on playback to mask performance weaknesses. This public revelation confirmed what fans had long suspected: Vince Neil's live vocals often depended on backing tracks. The lawsuit polarized fans and drew widespread media attention. Nikki Sixx expressed regret, Tommy Lee remained silent, and Vince Neil defended himself. Mick's response was stoic: "It is what it is." This legal battle not only reshaped public perception but highlighted the deep fractures that had persisted for decades, underscoring issues of loyalty, creative control, and the cost of fame. Following the lawsuit, Mick Mars released his solo album, The Other Side of Mars, receiving critical acclaim and affirming his enduring artistic value. He used this opportunity to emphasize life lessons learned from decades of struggle: live fully, protect your worth, and never allow others to define your value. Vince Neil, meanwhile, remained embroiled in controversy and public scrutiny. His silence and avoidance of media scrutiny have highlighted an increasing sense of isolation. The contrast between Mick's resilience and Vince's ongoing struggles provides a sobering look at the personal cost of fame. After more than 40 years, the story of Mick Mars and Vince Neil serves as a testament to both the power and fragility of rock stardom. Mötley Crüe's musical legacy is monumental, with platinum albums, iconic tours, and a distinct cultural imprint. Yet, behind the glitter and glam lies a cautionary tale: fame brings glory, but it also brings betrayal, tension, and the high price of loyalty. Fans and new audiences now have a clearer perspective, understanding that the story isn't just about music. It's about human relationships, personal endurance, and the choices artists make under the spotlight. The journey of Mick Mars and Vince Neil is more than a rock story; it's a lesson on ambition, friendship, and the complex interplay of personal and professional life in the music industry. Mick's revelations remind us that even the brightest stars experience hardship and isolation. Vince Neil's story reflects both the rise of an icon and the challenges of sustaining greatness under relentless public scrutiny. Ultimately, this is a story of music, passion, conflict, and resilience. The spotlight may reveal fame, but it also exposes vulnerability. Mick Mars and Vince Neil's narrative teaches us that legacy is more than talent; it's the choices, relationships, and honesty we bring to the stage, on and off. Behind the glitz and glamour, fame has a hidden cost. Mick Mars often reflects on the immense pressure the band faced during their peak years. Endless touring schedules, media scrutiny, and fan expectations created an environment where personal struggles were overlooked in favor of public performance. Vince Neil, despite his charismatic stage presence, had to carry the dual burden of public adoration and private challenges. Personal tragedies, legal issues, and substance abuse crises contributed to a life that seemed glamorous on the surface but was chaotic underneath. Mick Mars, on the other hand, had to battle chronic illness while maintaining the relentless energy required of a touring musician. The juxtaposition of these struggles illustrates a truth rarely acknowledged, that rock stardom is not just about fame and fortune, it's also about endurance, sacrifice, and resilience. Motley Crue was not just about scandal, it was about sound. Mick Mars' guitar work defined the band's early identity, mixing raw power with melodic ingenuity. Vince Neil's vocals were a signature, but the tension between creative vision and execution often caused friction. According to Mick, the early 1980s were the golden years where experimentation flourished. Every member contributed ideas, and the energy was raw, passionate, and collaborative. However, as commercial success grew, individual ambitions began to clash. Vince's desire for stardom sometimes conflicted with the collective musical direction, leading to silent resentments and unspoken disagreements. The irony of their creativity is that the same tension that produced legendary music also sowed the seeds for future disputes. The media has always played a crucial role in shaping the public image of Motley Crue. From magazines like Rolling Stone to television interviews, every statement and scandal was magnified. Mick Mars often expressed frustration with how narratives were spun, especially those portraying Vince Neil in extremes, either as a reckless star or a fallen idol. Social media has amplified these dynamics in the modern era. Fan communities dissect performances, interviews, and social appearances, creating a constant feedback loop that influences the band's reputation. Mick's revelations about backing tracks, creative exclusion, and personal isolation were interpreted not just as personal grievances but as cultural commentary on the pressures of fame. This interplay between media, fan perception, and personal truth has been a recurring theme in the story of Motley Crue. Mick Mars' struggle with ankylosing spondylitis has been an ongoing challenge throughout his career. The condition, which causes chronic pain and mobility issues, did not stop him from performing for decades. His dedication to the band, despite these limitations, underscores a remarkable level of personal resilience. Performing on stage while battling pain and fatigue requires extraordinary discipline. Mick's decision to continue touring until 2022 demonstrates his commitment to music and fans, but it also highlights the isolation he felt within the band. While others enjoyed the limelight, he bore the physical and emotional weight of maintaining the band's sound. This silent battle became a defining aspect of Mick's story, one that fans and fellow musicians deeply respect but few fully understand. Despite controversies and personal challenges, Vince Neil remains an icon. His image, blonde hair, electrifying stage presence, and rock star charisma, defined an era of glam metal. His ability to captivate audiences contributed significantly to Motley Crue's commercial success. However, the persona came at a cost. The very traits that made him an icon, recklessness, flamboyance, and risk-taking, also amplified conflicts within the band. Mick Mars' reflections reveal that Vince's public energy often masked private struggles, leaving little room for reconciliation or emotional closeness with other members. The duality of Vince Neil, the performer versus the person, remains central to understanding Motley Crue's internal tensions. Tours were both a source of triumph and tension. From Monsters of Rock to the Dr. Feelgood World Tour, Motley Crue performed in front of hundreds of thousands of fans, generating immense revenue and acclaim. Yet behind the scenes, tensions ran high. Mick Mars frequently noted that creative disagreements, scheduling conflicts, and personal grievances persisted throughout touring cycles. Vince Neil's reliance on backing tracks during live shows was one symptom of deeper issues, a growing inability to synchronize professional expectations with personal capacity. These tours, while celebrated publicly, often masked the struggles and sacrifices that kept the band operational. Mick Mars' career offers valuable lessons about leadership and loyalty. He often carried responsibilities silently, from musical arrangements to stage performance consistency. Yet loyalty without recognition can breed frustration. His departure and subsequent lawsuit were not acts of vengeance, they were assertions of self-respect and artistic integrity. By speaking out, Mick redefined loyalty. It is not blind devotion but mutual respect and acknowledgement. Vince Neil, in contrast, represents the other side of the equation, the pressures of maintaining celebrity while navigating personal challenges. Together, their stories illuminate the complex dynamics of teamwork, loyalty, and leadership in high-stakes creative industries. More than 4 decades later, the legacy of Motley Crue is undeniable. They created some of the most memorable albums in rock history, influencing countless artists and shaping the glam metal movement. Yet legacy is more than chart-topping records, it is also the story behind the music. Mick Mars and Vince Neil's narrative reminds us that success comes with costs, fractured relationships, personal struggles, and moments of ethical compromise. Their story invites reflection on how fame can both elevate and isolate, enrich and exhaust. The public sees the albums, tours, and accolades, but the true legacy is the resilience, the conflicts overcome, and the human experiences behind every chord, lyric, and performance. Motley Crue's albums were more than just music, they were milestones marking both triumphs and turmoil. Too Fast for Love, 1981, introduced the raw energy of a band hungry to define its own sound. The combination of Mick Mars' innovative guitar riffs, Vince Neil's soaring vocals, and Tommy Lee's explosive drumming created a sonic blueprint that became instantly recognizable. Shout at the Devil, 1983, solidified their presence in the rock world, earning multi-platinum success and igniting controversy with its dark imagery and bold themes. Fans celebrated the rebellious spirit, but critics noted the growing tension between theatricality and musicianship. Theater of Pain, 1985, showcased experimentation, while Girls, 1987, brought raw glamour and party-infused rock to the mainstream. The band's peak with Dr. Feelgood, 1989, combined polished production with unapologetic attitude, yet behind the scenes, personal conflicts and external pressures were intensifying. Each album became a reflection not only of musical evolution but also of the interpersonal dynamics that define Motley Crue. No story of Motley Crue would be complete without addressing the scandals that define their public image. Vince Neil's legal battles, arrests, and personal losses made headlines, from the tragic 1984 car accident to his struggles with alcohol and relationships. While the media sensationalized these events, Mick Mars' perspective offers a more nuanced view. He describes a band constantly under scrutiny, where mistakes were amplified and successes were measured not only in sales but in how well members could maintain their composure. The contrast between public image and private reality contributed to tensions, as Mick felt isolated by his dedication to music amidst chaos. Throughout their careers, both Mick Mars and Vince Neil explored solo projects. Vince's solo albums, like Exposed, 1993, and Carved in Stone, 1995, attempted to re-establish his identity outside Motley Crue, but commercial and critical success was limited. Mick Mars' solo work, however, particularly The Other Side of Mars, highlighted his artistic depth and allowed him to assert creative control free from band politics. These projects reveal an essential truth: personal artistry and group identity can clash. While the band's name carried immense weight, individual members often struggled to balance personal expression with the demands of fame and fan expectations. Tours were both a lifeline and a battleground. While shows like Monsters of Rock and the Dr. Feelgood World Tour generated massive revenue and fan devotion, they also highlighted cracks in the band's internal dynamics. Mick Mars often felt that his creative contributions were sidelined or altered in favor of commercial appeal. Financial success, however, allowed the band to continue despite these tensions. Industry insiders note that Motley Crue became a model of rock business efficiency, a band where image, branding, and tour profitability sometimes took precedence over creative collaboration. Fans have always played a central role in the story of Motley Crue. From screaming teenagers at 1980s shows to international stadium tours, the audience's devotion fueled the band's longevity. Yet fan reactions also amplified internal pressures. Criticism of live performances, debates over backing tracks, and social media scrutiny intensified tensions among members. Mick Mars' candid revelations about backing tracks, creative exclusion, and personal struggles resonated with a new generation of fans. Many applauded his honesty, while others debated the fairness of exposing internal band conflicts. the narrative illustrates a crucial lesson: public adoration is powerful but can magnify every fault, mistake, and tension in the spotlight. Relationships within Motley Crue were complex and layered. Mick Mars often felt that his ideas and musical contributions were undervalued. Vince Neil's rising stardom created a dynamic where creative influence was imbalanced, fostering resentment. Tommy Lee and Nikki Sixx played dual roles, collaborators in music but also enablers and mediators in conflicts. Over time, personal ambitions, substance abuse, and lifestyle choices led to growing distance between members. While the band projected unity to the public, behind the scenes, communication breakdowns and emotional isolation were constant challenges. As the band members aged, physical and vocal limitations became unavoidable. Mick Mars' ankylosing spondylitis, Vince Neil's declining vocal stamina, and the cumulative toll of decades of touring added stress. Fans and critics alike noted changes in performance quality, which, combined with mounting personal pressures, contributed to the band's eventual internal fracture. These challenges demonstrate the human side of fame. Longevity in the music industry requires resilience not just creatively, but physically and emotionally. Mick's perseverance became a symbol of dedication, while Vince's struggles highlighted the fragility of maintaining peak performance under pressure. The 2023 lawsuit filed by Mick Mars represented a turning point in public perception. His allegations of exclusion from creative processes, financial manipulation, and reliance on backing tracks drew intense scrutiny. The lawsuit polarized fans and the media. Supporters celebrated Mick's courage to expose truth, while critics defended Vince Neil. The legal conflict illuminated the deeper issues of trust, loyalty, and fairness in a band where decades of collaboration had often masked internal inequality. Through the controversies, triumphs, and betrayals, Mick Mars' personal philosophy emerged: live authentically, protect your value, and don't let others define your worth. His solo work and candid interviews show a man who has endured pain, isolation, and professional challenges, yet continues to find purpose in his music and personal legacy. Vince Neil, while less open publicly, embodies another lesson: the pressures of fame can isolate even the most iconic figures, and public perception rarely captures the full truth of personal struggle. Together, their stories offer insights into the costs and rewards of rock stardom. The story of Motley Crue is not just historical, it is instructive for new artists. It demonstrates that success comes with both opportunity and responsibility, that fame amplifies strengths and weaknesses, and that maintaining creative integrity requires negotiation, resilience, and mutual respect. Mick Mars and Vince Neil's journeys remind aspiring musicians that talent alone is not enough. Loyalty, communication, and protecting one's artistic vision are just as important as charisma, technical skill, or stage presence. The release of Dr. Feelgood in 1989 marked the pinnacle of Mötley Crüe's commercial success. It was the album that made the band a household name globally. Vince Neil's soaring vocals, combined with Mick Mars' signature guitar riffs, created a polished yet raw sound that fans adored. Yet behind the triumph, tension simmered. Mick Mars revealed that during this period, creative decisions were often dominated by commercial considerations rather than pure artistry. Vince's growing celebrity status created an imbalance, and while fans saw an energetic, cohesive band on stage, internal frustrations were mounting. Even amidst multi-platinum sales, the members' personal and professional relationships were strained by the pressures of fame and touring. Like many rock stars of the 1980s, Mötley Crüe's success came with excess. Vince Neil's struggles with alcohol and substance abuse became a defining factor in the band's internal dynamics. Missed rehearsals, erratic behavior, and public scandals affected both his personal image and the group's creative workflow. Mick Mars, who battled chronic illness, observed these patterns with a mix of frustration and empathy. While he focused on maintaining consistency in performances and studio recordings, Vince's lifestyle choices created ripple effects, contributing to creative tension and eroding trust within the band. Reunion tours in the 1990s and 2000s brought Mötley Crüe back to the stage, but they were not free from conflict. While fans celebrated nostalgia and the chance to see iconic performances, Mick Mars revealed that old rivalries and unresolved grievances persisted. During tours like Carnival of Sins, 2005, and the Stadium Tour, 2022, the band focused heavily on spectacle and revenue. Backstage, however, communication was minimal, creative input was limited, and the sense of camaraderie that had defined the early years was largely absent. Mick's health challenges, combined with the ongoing tension with Vince Neil, highlighted the gap between public perception and private reality. With the rise of social media, every misstep became magnified. Live performance critiques, rumors of backing tracks, and debates over artistic contributions became viral topics. Mick Mars' openness about these issues further fueled media coverage, forcing fans and critics to reevaluate their understanding of the band's history. Vince Neil, accustomed to media attention, often avoided direct responses. Mick's candid statements, however, created a narrative where fans could finally see the complexities behind the curtain, proof that even legendary bands are vulnerable to conflict and misrepresentation. Vince Neil's personal tragedies, including the loss of his daughter Skylar in 1995, left a lasting mark. Despite founding the Skylar Neil Memorial Fund, which helped children with life-threatening illnesses, Vince struggled to regain personal and professional balance. Mick Mars, while less publicly affected by tragedy, faced emotional strain from feeling excluded and undervalued within the band. These personal challenges intertwined with professional pressures, further complicating relationships and highlighting the human side of rock stardom that fans rarely see. In 2023, Mick Mars filed a lawsuit against Motley Crüe, marking a historic turning point. The allegations included creative exclusion, financial manipulation, and confirmation that Vince Neil relied heavily on backing tracks during live performances. The lawsuit sent shockwaves through the music community, dividing fans and sparking debates about honesty, loyalty, and the cost of fame. Nikki Sixx expressed regret, Tommy Lee remained silent, and Vince Neil offered defenses that only reinforced the tension. Mick's calm but resolute response, "It is what it is," summarized decades of internal struggle and set the stage for a re-examination of the band's legacy. After leaving Mötley Crüe, Mick Mars focused on his solo career. The other side of Mars allowed him to reclaim creative control and explore musical ideas free from band politics. Fans and critics praised the album for its depth and authenticity, demonstrating that Mick's artistic contribution extended far beyond the confines of Mötley Crüe. For Vince Neil, solo work remained inconsistent. While he maintained visibility through reality TV appearances and sporadic releases, critics often noted that his performances did not match the quality of his earlier years. This contrast highlighted the different paths each musician took in the wake of internal and personal challenges. Mötley Crüe's legacy is undeniable. Their albums, tours, and impact on glam metal influenced generations of musicians. Yet Mick Mars' revelations force a more nuanced understanding. The band's success came with interpersonal costs, public controversies, and creative compromises. Fans now see a dual legacy, musical innovation and cultural influence on one hand, and unresolved conflicts, personal struggles, and backstage drama on the other. Mick's honesty allows audiences to appreciate the sacrifices behind every riff, lyric, and performance. The story of Mick Mars and Vince Neil serves as a cautionary tale for artists everywhere. Talent alone is not enough, resilience, loyalty, and the ability to navigate interpersonal challenges are equally crucial. Mick's journey shows the importance of self-respect and artistic integrity, while Vince's experiences illustrate the pressures of fame and the potential consequences of unchecked lifestyle choices. Their narrative teaches fans and aspiring musicians that the human cost of fame is as significant as its rewards, and that legacy is not only measured in success but in personal authenticity and endurance. After more than 4 decades, the story of Mötley Crüe is more than a rock tale, it's a study in human relationships, ambition, and perseverance. Mick Mars' candidness offers lessons in dignity, resilience, and the pursuit of artistic truth. Vince Neil's journey, marked by triumphs and setbacks, reminds us of the fragility of celebrity and the enduring pressures of public life. Ultimately, the story of these two legends is a reminder that fame is only a part of life's narrative. Behind every performance, tour, and album lies a human story of struggle, loyalty, and perseverance. Their legacy, both musical and personal, offers a profound reflection on what it truly means to live in the spotlight.